The people from Ziph went to Shaul in Giva and said, David is hiding himself in the Hakilah hill across from Yishaman. Then Shaul set out and went down to the Ziph desert with 3,000 men chosen from Israel to search for David in the Ziph desert. Shaul pitched camp in Hakilah hill across from Yishaman near the road. David was standing in the desert, and he saw that Shaul was coming into the desert after him. So David dispatched spies and determined that Shaul had definitely come. David set out and went to where Shaul had pitched his camp. He saw where Shaul and Abner, the son of Ner, the commander of his army, were sleeping. Shaul was lying inside the barricade with the troops asleep all around him. David said to Achimelech the Hittite and Avishi, the son of Zeruiah and Yoav's brother, who will go down with me to Shaul in their camp? Avishi said, I will go down with you. So David and Avishi went to the soldiers by night. Shaul was lying there, asleep, inside the barricade. His spear was stuck in the ground next to his head, with Abner and the troops asleep all around him. Avishi said to David, God has handed your enemy over to you today. So now, please, let me pin him to the ground with just one stroke of the spear. I won't strike him a second time. But David said to Avishi, don't destroy him. Nobody can raise his hand against Adonai's anointed without becoming guilty. David then added, as Adonai lives, Adonai will strike him down, or the day will come for him to die, or he will go down to battle. He will go down to battle and be swept away. Adonai forbid that I should rise my hand against Adonai's anointed. But now, take the spear by his head and a jug of water. Go out of here. So David took the spear and the water jug from Shaul's head and got away. Nobody saw or knew about it, and no one awoke because they were asleep. A deep sleep from Adonai had fallen all over them. David crossed to the other side and climbed to the top of the distant ridge, leaving a considerable space between them. Then David called out to the troops of Abner, the son of Ner, Abner, aren't you going to answer? Abner answered, Who are you? Who are you calling to the king? David said to Abner, Aren't you the brave one? Who is there in Israel to compare with you? So why haven't you kept watch over your lord the king? Someone came in to kill the king, your lord. It's not good what you've done. As Adonai lives, you deserve to die, because you didn't watch over your lord Adonai's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the jug of water next to his head. Shaul recognized David's voice and said, Is that your voice, my son David? David said, It's my voice, my lord king. He continued, Why is my lord chasing his servant? What have I done? What evil am I planning? Please now, may my lord the king hear what his servant is saying. If it is Adonai who has stirred you up against me, let him receive an offering. But if it is human beings, then a curse on them before Adonai. Because as these things stand today, they have driven me out, so that I can no longer share in Adonai's inheritance. They've said, Go, serve other gods. Now don't let my blood fall on the ground away from the presence of Adonai. The king of Israel has gone out in search of a single flea, as if he were hunting a partridge in the mountains. And Shaul said, I have sinned. Come back, my son David. I won't harm you any longer, because you regarded my life as precious today. Yes, I have behaved like a fool. I was altogether in wrong. David answered, Here is the king's spear. Send one of the men over to bring it back. Adonai will give every person a reward suited to his own uprightness and faithfulness. Adonai puts you in my power today. I will not raise my hand against Adonai's anointed. Look, Just as I put value on your life today, so may my life be given great value by Adonai. May he deliver me from every kind of trouble." Shaul answered, "David, blessings on you, my son David. No question that you are accomplished everything you set out to do." So David went out on his way, and Shaul returned to his place. But David said to himself, "One day Shaul will sweep me away. The best thing for me to do is escape into the territory of the Plishtim, and Shaul will give up trying to find me here and there in Israel's territory, and at last I will be free of him." So David set out with his 600 men and passed on to Achish, the son of Maoch, king of Gath. David lived with Achish, he and his men, each man with his household, including David with his 2 wives, Achinoam and Yisrael, and Abigail from Carmel, Nabal's widow. Shaul was told that David escaped to Gath, whereupon he stopped searching for him. David said to Achish, "If you are now favorably disposed towards me, let me have a place to live in one of the cities in the countryside. Why should your servant live in the royal city with you?" That very day Achish gave him Ziklag. That's why this day Ziklag belongs to the king of Yehuda. After David had been living in the country of the Plishtim for a year and 4 months, he and his men began going up and raiding the Geshri, the Guzri, and the Amaleki. From ancient times, these people had lived in the land in the direction of Shur, all the way to Egypt. David would attack the land, leaving alive neither men nor women, but taking the sheep, cattle, donkey, camels, and clothing. Then he would return and go to Achish. Achish would ask, "Where were you raiding today?" David would answer, "Against the Negev and Yehuda," or "Against the Negev and Yerushalayim," or "Against the Negev of Keni." The reason David spared neither men nor women to be brought to Gath is now he thought, "We don't want them telling on us, saying David did so and so." That's how he conducted his raids for as long as he lived in the country of the Plishtim, and Achish believed him. He said, "David has caused his own people of Israel to despise him utterly. He will be my servant forever." In due time, the Plishtim assembled their armies for war against Israel. Achish told David, "You know, of course, that you and your men will join me in the army in battle." David answered Achish, "I see that you already know what your servant will do." Achish said to David, "For that answer I am making you my personal bodyguard for life." Now Shmuel was dead. All Israel had mourned him and buried him in the city of Ramah. Also Shaul had expelled from the land all who tell the fortune by communicating with the dead or with a demonic spirit. The Plishtim assembled, and they went and pitched camp in Shunem, while Shaul gathered all Israel together and pitched camp in Gilboa. When Shaul saw the army of the Plishtim, he became afraid. It struck terror in his heart. But when he consulted Adonai, Adonai didn't answer him, not by dreams, not by Urim, and not by prophets. Then Shaul said to his servants, "Try to find me a woman who tells the future by communicating with the dead. I want to go and consult with her." Servants answered him, "Yes, there is a woman in Endor who tells the future by communicating with the dead." So Shaul disguised himself by wearing different clothing, went with 2 men, came to the woman by night, and said, "Tell me the future, please. Bring up the dead from the person I came to you." The woman answered, "Here, you know what Shaul did? How he expelled the land, those who tell the fortune by communicating with the dead or with demonic spirit. Why are you telling to entrap me and causing me my own death?" But Shaul swore to her by Adonai, "As Adonai lives, you will not be punished for doing this." Then the woman asked, "Who should I bring up for you?" He said, "Bring up for me Shmuel." When the woman saw Shmuel, she let out a shriek. Then the woman said to Shaul, "Why have you deceived me? You yourself are Shaul." The king replied, "Don't be afraid. Just tell me what you see." The woman said to Shaul, I see a godlike being coming up from the earth. He asked her, what does he look like? She said, an old man is coming up. He's wearing a cloak. Shaul realized it was Shmuel, so he bowed his face to the ground and prostrated himself. Shmuel asked Shaul, why have you disturbed me and brought me up? Shaul answered, I'm very upset because the Plishtim are making war against me, and God has left me and doesn't answer me anymore, neither by prophets nor by dreams. This is why I've called you, so that you can let me know what to do. Shmuel said, why ask me? If Adonai has left you and become your enemy, Adonai has done for himself what he foretold through me. Adonai has torn the kingdom out of your hand and has given it to your fellow countryman David, because you didn't obey what Adonai said and execute his furious anger towards Amalek. That's why Adonai is doing this to you today. Adonai is giving Israel as well as yourself over to the power of the Plishtim, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. Adonai will hand over Israel's army to the power of the Plishtim. Shaul immediately fell full length on the ground and became terribly frightened because what Shmuel had said. He had no strength left in him, for he had eaten nothing all that day and night. The woman approached Shaul, saw that he was in panic stricken, and said to him, Here, your servant listened to what you said. I put my life in your hands and did what you requested me to do. Now therefore, please, you listen to what your servant says. Let me put a little food in front of you, then eat, so that you will have some strength when you go on your way. But he refused and said, I won't eat. And his servants, together with the woman, urged him and heeded him what they said. He got up off the ground and sat on the bed. The woman had a fattened calf in the house. She hurried and slaughtered it, and she took flour, kneaded it, and baked matzah with it. She served it to Shaul and his servants, and they ate. Afterwards they got up, and they went away that night.